You're listening to the Visible Expert Podcast, where we share stories, research, and actionable insights to help B2B marketers and practitioners drive extraordinary growth in their professional lives. Hi, everybody. I'm John Tyerman. I'm joined with my colleague, Kelly.
I'm Kelly Waffle. Glad to be here today.
And we've got a really great show for you today. We interviewed Andy Crestodina of Orbit Media Studios, and I thought his story was really interesting.
It's really compelling. I mean, he talks about learning to speak Chinese. He talks about a death at his organization. So a lot of stuff beyond just B2B marketing and other incidental tips like that.
Yeah, and I thought what he's doing in Chicago is really great with his Chicago Cause. He's got an annual conference, his Content Jam conference, and then I thought what was kind of really cool is his monthly wine and web event.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny when we asked him how much wine they drink and how good of a time it is, and he invited us out there. So hopefully we can get out there and hang out with him for his monthly wine and web event.
Well, yeah, and certainly if you're ever in Chicago, you should check out Andy at Orbit Media. But I'd also recommend that you buy a copy of his book, Content Chemistry. So it's really a practical guide, really a workbook for many marketers as far as what they need to do around content marketing and social media and things like that. A lot of actionable tips that you can apply right away.
Yeah, I actually just ordered the book, and it came in the mail, and it's in its 5th edition, so it's current. And I thought that it was really interesting that he's got lots of screenshots from Google Analytics, what's the best time to post on social media, how to promote your original research. There's a lot of, Kelly, like you said, a lot of really good actionable
Yeah, I've talked to Andy before, and he told me that one of the hits he takes sometimes is that he comes across very pragmatic and tactical, and so sometimes he questions whether he should change that. But I think it's pretty much a winning formula for him. There are just too many marketers out there that are looking for help and don't know what they don't know, and I think Andy has a really friendly approach to all of this that will really help you succeed in your role as a marketer.
Well, there's just so much information, there's so much data, and there's so many people that are already talking about at a high level what to do. And at least as a practitioner, I really appreciate the level of detail that he goes into on that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, John.
So, well, as always, our podcast is brought to you by Hinge Marketing. Check us out at hingemarketing.com. And on that note, let's go right into the interview. Here comes Andy. All right, everybody, we're joined with Andy Crestodina from Orbit Media Studios. Andy, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to have you on as well. Before we dive into your story, can you tell us a little bit about what's new at Orbit Media Studios?
Sure. So this is an 18-year-old company that has been focused on web development for all that time. Our marketing has evolved more over the years than our service offering. We also do optimization for clients after websites go live. But as time went on, we have added to our marketing program where now we have a monthly event, a quarterly event. We keep doing our annual conference. And I'm producing lots more video, which is a big change, which is fun. We could talk about that. And the 5th edition of the book came out. So we're running the most effective programs for brand awareness and visibility and lead generation that we have found over the years, and continue to evolve those programs to the highest level we can.
Wow, it sounds like you've got a lot going on over there.
We're busy.
That's great to hear there, Andy. And so here at Hinge, we really define influencers in the B2B space as what we call visible experts. And it sounds like your profile fits in there perfectly. Can you tell us a little bit about your path to becoming a visible expert?
Sure. I knew you'd ask this, so I've been thinking about this. It's such a great question. And brands are so closely aligned often with the people at those brands that I just love how you guys have put this together and, full firms and visible experts. So I was trained as a teacher in college. I was going to be a foreign language teacher. I majored in Mandarin. Yeah.
Mandarin.
So teaching was always a passion. Yeah. This was like the mid 90s and I didn't know what else to do. And they said Chinese would be big. So I got certified to teach, and that involved like a lot of pedagogy and like curriculum development and, aligning everything with learning objectives. And then, ended up doing something totally different and moved back from China and started building websites with a good friend and started the company in 2001 and then learned search right away. I had to figure out SEO, learned analytics right away from before it was even analytics. And then it wasn't until like maybe 2007, 2008 that I started really producing much content. And at the time, it was a way to keep in touch with past clients and current prospects. And I just like, oh, this is great. It's like autopilot. I'll just write articles, send a newsletter, invite people back to the website, and try to stay visible. And then in 2011, began teaching and doing live events and presentations. And then it all comes together with social and live events and email marketing and blogging and content strategy and search and analytics. So they become like this, it all converges in this big ecosystem we all live in now. And so really it was just a cost-effective, efficient way to stay visible to a lot of people because you have to, people will need websites every, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years. And focusing on live events helped me be more relevant and kind of closer to my audience because I'm in front of rooms of people. I thought of that from the beginning as a more effective way to just do networking, right? In a networking event, you meet 5 or 8, 10 people. You give a presentation, you'll meet, 20 or 30 or 100 people. So it was really just repurposing all that training to become a teacher. And I thought of content as like documentation and curriculum development. And speaking was an extension of just teaching to a larger group in a more intimate format. So all those go together, and eventually I become kind of a speaker on the conference circuit and doing lots of PR type stuff, webinars and podcasts and interviews. And it's, I'm one of the, couple hundred of people who just, show up at conferences and teach. So that was kind of the path.
That sounds great. I know that you do the content jam there in Chicago, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So it was kind of one of those at a bar with a friend. Hey, there's lots of events. Maybe we could do one ourselves. It's my friend Tim Frick from Mighty Bites. Tim was a graduate of Columbia College, which is a good film school here in Chicago. And they have a beautiful space, which has an auditorium surrounded by classrooms. So he called in a favor, got the space. And actually, that was the second year. The first year, we just did it in our offices. But the idea was just to invite clients and friends and prospects in and teach the best things that we know, the most practical things we know. And it worked well enough, did it the second year, worked well enough, did it the third year. Gradually, the partners kind of dropped out until it was really just us here at Orbit. But now this is year 7 or 8. Mark Schaefer is the keynote this year. Ann Handley was last year. So these are friends I've made from conferences. And it'll be 450 people. It's Chicago's largest content marketing conference. It started tiny with like 50 attendees in a couple of conference rooms. But, it's sort of like these are all examples of how just do something, keep doing it, like it's the momentum and inertia, you'll gradually get pulled deeper into these formats. It's a case of just a little bit of initiative and a lot of persistence. And Content Jam, this year it's October 29th. And we're moving to a new space to hold more people. and it's still kind of bootstrapped. It's pretty low budget, simple in a lot of ways, but it's a combination of multi-track, single track, where we have keynotes and then some breakouts, and then finally keynotes at the end of the day. It's a one-day conference like many others, with the day prior is workshops, and it's super fun. And it actually is. Events are probably the only format of content for which demand exceeds supply. It's sold out every year for 5 years.
Wow,
So,
that's great.
Yeah. I recommend conferences or even a small event to a monthly event. There's a lot of programs, content programs, that would benefit by getting, B2B service companies especially, just get people together. Works really well.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's great that you're so involved in the Chicago community as well. And I was looking on your website, and it looks like it's evident that you really care about giving back to your community. Can you tell us about Chicago Cause and how the Orbiteers get involved?
Yeah, that one is another labor of love. We always sort of said like this will have PR benefits, there's a marketing upside. The real benefit is to the community and to the team. So we get to work together on a project that we feel passionate about. It's something that we're proud of, along with being a B Corp or a certified B Corp, which is B Lab's certification program, where companies align themselves with social and environmental responsibility, transparency, commitment, people, planet, profit, the good stuff. And so it's a very B Corp-y thing to do. We just donate a website or 2 websites per year to different nonprofits. We get around 70 applications per year. We have 4 different partners. There's a social media firm and a PR firm and a branding firm and a traditional marketing firm. And so we all get all these applications. We all choose the 1 or 2 potential nonprofits that we think we can make the biggest impact for. And then we just go do good work for them. And so the equivalent, it's like an in-kind donation, which for us is maybe a $40,000 a year donation in kind services. And if you add up all the services from all the firms over the years, it's gotten up there. I mean, it's I don't know, like $500,000 or something we've donated all together over the years. I could look it up.
Wow.
Yeah, Chicago Cause.
That's terrific. Looking back, Andy, over your career, I really like the fact that you emphasize education. What do you wish you had known when you had first started out with all of this?
Well, hindsight's 2020, and same as you guys, right? Like a lot of us can look back and say, "Wow, if I thought of that." I was around, although in college, when a lot of the super valuable domains were registered. Any one of us could have started any of these software platforms, SurveyMonkey, Eventbrite, pick your favorite tool. We all could have done that. Mostly, I sort of wish I had figured out a few years earlier that long form, detailed step-by-step instructions for the slightly more advanced marketing tactics would be so hugely effective and valuable to readers. If I look at kind of the silly things I was publishing in 2007 and 8, comparing a marketing tactic to a popular movie or something, it's like not really that valuable content. But any one of us could have just gone deeper into the really detailed stuff and done so with video earlier and done so with more advanced topics earlier, and just built much larger audiences that would have made it much easier to grow awareness and attention and demand at this point. But everything's fine. I mean, we're a 38-person firm with close to $5 million in revenue and very stable, and clients are happy and the team's happy. So I don't have any regrets. But yeah, in hindsight, I should have doubled down on big content, 2 or 3 years before I did.
Of course, yeah. The hindsight is 2020, and you look back and you say, "Man, I wish I could have done some things differently." I love the educational approach. It's something that we preach here at Hinge. If you're looking back, what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced? What are some of the maybe some of the low points on your journey that you had to really fight through to get to where you are?
Well, my grandpa used to say that about marriage is if you choose the right partner, nothing's better. If you choose the wrong partner, nothing's worse. We had, I had the structure of the company wasn't on strong footing for several years, and to change the arrangement between what was at the time 3 partners was extremely painful and expensive. So that there were lots of sleepless nights and huge bills to pay to get Orbit back in a place where it was going to, where we could all work together and be happy and do great work. So those were some dark times. We went through 2 recessions since we started, and there were a lot of lean years. We had a key employee pass away, almost unbelievably. Like that was, talk about why you want to see a team come together. It's like, the toughest, the least imaginable gut punch, in my professional life was, that day. It was all of us were just shocked for weeks. So yeah, we've seen everything. If you stick around long enough, and everything will happen eventually. But resilience, persistence, focus. These are the reasons why people succeed in the long run. Of course, work hard and have good ideas and take a chance. But the biggest factor in whether or not people are successful is whether or not they stay focused and persist, and they're laser in on that goal. You guys have data to support that, right? You've seen that talking to all the companies you work with, I think, every day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the focus and the dedication, the persistence, like you say, and just building a brand takes a long time, and that's really what we focus on is brand building in the professional services. And we do an annual study every year where we look at the fastest growing firms, and one of the things that we consistently find is they do have that focus and they do have that specialization. So yeah, that is what we see. Yeah.
Your research piece, for listeners that haven't seen it yet, they all should. Super important piece for our industry because you found the correlations between business practices and growth. So yeah, if you want to know how to set up Google Analytics, I've got some nice content for you. But if you want to know how to grow your business, take a look at hingemarketing.com. You guys have a gold mine there of data of correlations between big picture business practice and success.
Well, thank you for the kind words. Yeah, we definitely work hard at it, and I'm heavily involved in the research here, and it's great to hear you say that, Andy. Thank you.
No, it's we share it around the office. It starts debates in our office when you guys publish stuff.
What kind of debates?
Well, if we can use this time for some free consulting, I've got some great questions for you. You can tell me what I'm doing wrong. The specialization question is the big one. So we started in the beginning, web design was like a specialty. The agencies were all full service, when we were like a specialty agency, we were like, web design and development, that's like a niche. Now, it's definitely not a niche. It's such a huge category. Mm-hmm. So Chicago isn't a specialty, but we've been successful. We're sort of victims of our success. So we create tons of leads. We're dominant in search and have great audience and successful at creating enough demand to sustain ourselves. But we could be so much bigger if we did outbound kind of more sort of targeted marketing or account-based marketing.
Right.
To do that well, we'd have to niche down into something. And that raises all these questions about what would we choose? What would we say no to? So yeah, your research showing that the most successful firms are specialists and target more specific categories causes debates here about if we should and should we, and if yes, we specialize into what. So we could take that offline, but I'd love to brainstorm that with you. This is a big one for us.
Yeah, we'd love to follow up and talk to you further about this offline at some point, Andy.
Yeah, I'd be grateful for that.
I just want to pick your brain a little bit more. So at what point did you realize that you'd kind of turned the corner and reached kind of a new level of visible expertise in your career?
Well, it's really been gradual. There weren't any major tipping points. We published a book without much of a splash. We launched our events without much of a splash. I mean, they all kind of, it's like a slow snowballing. So, but 2014, I think, I gave the highest rated presentation at Content Marketing World. And anyone that gets that, the accolade for that gets to keynote the next year. So I got to keynote Content Marketing World in what I think was 2015 or 2016, something like that, a few years back. And so that's like, speaking to a group of 4,000 people, which was a big day. So it was, I guess, once I kind of got to the point where I knew that the presentations were both practical enough and had enough interest in them to not be boring, that I started to get invited back to give more presentations. It sort of became obvious that if I wanted to stay on the road and just speak all the time, I probably could. But that doesn't actually meet our business goals that well. But there have been huge honors. I mean, to be a highly rated speaker at any of these big conferences is just a huge. It's really truly an honor to get to go to these places and speak to these rooms and then get good feedback.
Well, and again, a show like that, I mean, that's full of fairly knowledgeable people as well. You're not typically working with a junior audience. You're working with some seasoned practitioners. So for them to give you that kind of accolade, that's fantastic and certainly well deserved.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's the attendees who, it's sort of like crowdsourced. They you just got to get high scores. It was actually a funny day. Like the clicker didn't work. There were like technology problems in the room, and so we just kind of made a joke of it. So I said next like 200 times during that presentation, asking the guy to go to the next slide, and it was almost funny by the end. Like, okay, that was my session. Next, go to another session. So there were enough laughs, and we kind of rolled with it. But it was potentially dry. I mean, it was an analytics presentation. It's a tough topic, and I don't think there's as many people who teach it. Yeah. So I teach analytics a lot.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to follow up. You and I had talked a little while ago about this wine event that you have, and I couldn't remember if it was monthly or every other month. I think it's at your company where you have different people or even folks within your company are able to share some thought leadership and kind of start the path about being a visible expert. Can you talk a little bit more about that event and then some of the benefits that you shared with me about it?
Yeah, so a long time ago, 9 years ago, I told, we had an advisor at the time, and I said, I want to have an open house, and I want to teach. I think I have enough content to give a presentation, and I'm going to serve wine, and I'm going to call it Wine and Web. And the input was, well, I don't know if you can do that. If someone gets drunk and crashes on the way home, you're going to be responsible. It's like, that's not, it's a little dangerous to serve alcohol. I don't know. The advice, people didn't like the idea at first. I didn't care. I just went ahead with it. And I did it every month ever since then. So I've had a monthly event for 9 years. It's probably half the time it's me, half the time it's a guest speaker. Sometimes it's a guest speaker who happens to be in town. from another conference. We've had amazing speakers. I mean, I've had big names, who I'm honored to be friends with and who happen to, be around and will come in and give a presentation. But yeah, it's a chance to try new content before giving presentations at bigger events. So there's big benefit there. It's a chance to try other speakers before booking them for our conference. So that's a benefit. But really what you're doing is it's this alchemy where you fill a room with fans and friends and prospects and happy clients. So they all get benefit from networking with each other, because the first part of the event is just drinking wine and eating pizza and talking to each other. I know lots of people that have found jobs from it and found clients from it, hired candidates from it. But the sales benefit is powerful if you're proactive enough to get the right people in the room, because they're all having a positive experience, and some of those people might be in your sales pipeline. So there's a magic to events. There's a magic to formats that persist and continue. There's a magic to, the live one-on-one interactions, so much better than social media or these online, popular formats where everyone's kind of, up on the other sides of screens. But so yeah, we're conditioning our email list to sign up for events. So the one big day a year when we sell tickets to Content Jam, it helps with sales. And it pushes me, about, every other month I have to make something new because there's a lot of repeat attendees. So I feel pressure. If you want to get good at something, commit to giving a live presentation on that topic, because the fear of public failure is one of the most powerful motivators. So yeah, start an event, offer to teach Facebook ads or whatever, something you know nothing about, and you will cram like it's, finals week until that presentation. You're going to be ready, and you're going to be expert enough on that day to drive value for everyone involved.
I can think of a few webinars that I had to cram just a few days before presenting. But what you're touching on is a kind of a part of a broader trend that's permeating throughout the marketing landscape, and that's the notion of more of a human-centric marketing model. So I think what you're doing is fantastic with the Wine and Web, with the Content Jam, with the Chicago Cause. I think that's all fantastic stuff.
Well, thanks. There's speaking of human-centered, have you seen the new Mark Schaefer book, Marketing Rebellion?
You know what?
That's funny you say that.
It's funny you say that, because I was actually on a plane. Actually, I was stuck in an airport for 12 hours waiting to go to the Qualtrics X4 Summit out in Salt Lake City. But that afforded me the time to be able to read Marketing Rebellion, and it's really given me a new perspective on marketing. And I think Mark does a great job. I listened to his podcast, The Marketing Companion, and listen to him speak and follow him on social. And it's really good stuff.
It is highly recommended. It really breaks it down. There are 100% of marketers. It's a relevant book for all of us. It's really just so good.
Absolutely. Well, and part of that human-centric marketing approach is also the notion of, building your personal brand, becoming a visible expert. What is one piece of advice that you would give a professional looking to start building their personal brand today?
I had a great conversation earlier today with a guy who's got a fantastic personal brand, and his advice was just to be helpful. It was funny hearing that, because my advice is usually much, much more tactical. Yes, be helpful, help everyone you can. I'm going to agree with him. But if there's like a specific takeaway, something you can do right away, I think for a lot of us, there's an opportunity to make short videos of us teaching something simple and putting it on social media, especially LinkedIn. I am seeing fantastic results by creating like a 1-minute commercial promoting any piece of content you've recently published, or just making like a 4-minute video of you explaining some concept or teaching something practical. we are in a golden age for social media video in general and LinkedIn specifically. And the viewer, so a few tricks. First of all, you have to put captions on them because so the volume isn't going to be on by default.
Right.
You're trying to stop them from scrolling and slow down. The captions are going to slow them down when they see your face. And you got to get over that inhibition you have of being on camera. Set up just the most basic office. Make sure the audio is good and the lighting's okay. And just turn on the camera, teach something, explain something. Introduce them to that piece of research. Maybe research is another huge trick, but introduce them to that, your highest value piece of content. Mention in the social post anyone who's involved in the content, or anyone who shared the article if it's promoting a piece of content. It is one of the best marketing / personal branding / visible expert approaches I know. And the cost is very close to zero. Most people still aren't doing it, so you'll be an early adopter. Even now, you'll be an early adopter if you do it. I really am the millionth person to recommend this, and it's very powerful.
Very cool. Well, Andy, if for folks that are listening that want to connect with you or reach out to you, where can they find you?
Orbitmedia.com is where I publish an article every other week. I'm not on Facebook or Instagram hardly at all, but LinkedIn is a great place to connect with me, say hi, ask a question if I can help with anything. I guess my best advice is in the newsletter. And the big thing, if you want it all at once, is the book, it's called Content Chemistry. It's in its 5th edition. You can buy it on Amazon or anywhere. And it's like 250 pages with everything that I know, step by step, spelled out, the illustrated handbook for content marketing, we call it.
Well, that's very cool. In fact, I just ordered your book the other day, and I'm really looking forward to reading it.
Any and all feedback is welcome.
It was great, Andy. We appreciate you giving up your time and speaking with us today.
My pleasure. Keep doing what you guys are doing. You are helping a lot of people with your content and with your research. And it was an honor and a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, and that was our interview with Andy Crestodina of Orbit Media Studios. Check him out at orbitmedia.com. And give Andy a follow on LinkedIn and Twitter. He provides a lot of really actionable, practical insights from his blog posts. He's doing a lot of video as of late, so give him a follow.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that a lot of people, after they listen to this interview, are more interested in becoming a visible expert themselves. So obviously it doesn't happen overnight. There are different steps you need to follow, different levels of visible expertise. So we have a course at Hinge University online that you can check out. John, where can they go to find out more information?
Yeah, to find out more information on the Visible Expert course, just go to hingeuniversity.com. And we actually have a preview of the course for free that you can check out. And yeah, that's where you're going to go to check out that course. And if you found this interview helpful, if you found this podcast helpful, please tell a friend. Rate us on iTunes. You'll have to go to iTunes and in the search bar, search for the Visible Expert podcast. And that's how you can leave a rating and a review. It really helps us out. And tell a friend. Podcast is all about word of mouth and sharing. And we love to share all this information with you. So look forward to having you on the next podcast. And happy branding.